What's good, geeks? I'm Jake, and I'm Gen X.
I'm Anna, I'm Gen Z.
And we are Generational Geeks. So today we are talking about...
I almost said X-Men.
Nope. Today we are talking about...
He-Man, or I guess Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe Revelation, Part 1.
Part 1.
Yes, because there's supposed to be 10 episodes in the first season.
Oh.
But Part 1 was 5 episodes, and they're all right around 25 minutes, plus or minus a couple minutes. And this was very much not a He-Man show. This was a Masters of the Universe show, as has been pointed out. And this is not like our normal review. We don't have review in the title. And this is more of a...
discussion / rant.
Yes. And all the spoilers.
All the spoilers
All
you
the
could hope
spoilers.
for. All of them.
So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, you don't want spoilers, stop watching.
But if you haven't seen it and you don't care about spoilers, then...
Or if you have seen it and you want to know what we think, spoiler-wise, stay tuned. First off, He-Man dies in the first episode. And the last episode. Orko dies, Moss Man dies, and Roboto dies. In 5 episodes.
5. We thought Game of Thrones was bad.
So, for me, this was just a complete...
Skeletor dies.
Yes, Skeletor dies. But for me, this was just a complete bait and switch. The trailer that they gave us, the animation looked great. And that's one thing I will say about the show. The animation was good. But the whole bait and switch, the trailer showed us He-Man all the way through. They advertised it as being He-Man, Masters of the Universe.
It was very He-Man focused.
In the trailer.
Yes.
So, we got He-Man in the first episode. He dies. Episodes 2 and 3, they give us flashbacks of He-Man and Teela fighting together. Episode 4... No, I don't think they showed He-Man at all in episode 4. And then episode 5, we're introduced to Prince Adam. And we don't even get to see He-Man because as he's changing into He-Man, Skeletor gets him in the back.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought was kind of strange since Teela, Andra, Cringer... Was there one other person there with them? Evelyn.
Duncan.
Yeah. We're all standing right there.
Yeah. And everybody's
right
all
next
surprised.
to him.
Yeah.
And they're like, where did this come from? And it's like you don't see the black swirling mass forming right behind He-Man. You wouldn't be like, hey, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say anything about that?
But, you know,
as it's coming out of
based
Evelyn
off
stuff.
of a cheesy 1980s cartoon.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the writing needs to be bad.
Well,
you can have cheesy without it being bad.
So, this was advertised as basically a direct sequel to the 2 seasons of the cartoon that we got in the 80s that I watched in the 80s because I am Gen X. I haven't seen the series that came out, I don't know, back in like 2010. I guess there was one back then. I haven't seen it. I'd heard about it, but I've never watched it. And my expectations going into this were pretty low. And
especially after what they did with She-Ra. It
was still disappointing. Even with as low as my expectations were. And it wasn't good. So don't get me wrong. But I feel like if they would have advertised it for what it was, it wouldn't have been as bad as it is. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Still wasn't good.
It's the disappointment that was like... That's what
part of the whole
rating.
Yeah, part of the whole thing. And the bait and switch. If you take the bait and switch away and just based on it how it is, I would give it a 5.
If they took the bait and switch away, I'd probably give it like a 6.5 or a 7.
With the bait and switch, I'm giving it like
4.
a 3. It was, I don't know, it was just awful.
Very disappointing.
Yes. And like I said, my expectations were low. I thought they were actually going to have Teela turn in
to He-Man?
Not necessarily He-Man, but her
a
greater
warrior,
self.
become a champion, sorry.
Yes.
I thought that, like, Prince Adam was going to call down the power of Grayskull and it wouldn't work. And then he'd give the sword to Teela and she would do it. That's how I thought it would go down.
Yeah.
I also don't understand why they didn't just give it to him in the first place, like, as they were leaving Paternia.
Yeah. So
like, why did you wrap the sword and then leave with it? You could have just given it to Adam.
So basically, in the first episode, Teela's being awarded, and she's going to be the new man-at-arms. Because Duncan, her father, I guess, is retiring.
Retiring something.
So and then Skeletor attacks Grayskull. He-Man dies. Skeletor dies. And
because they're trying to protect the secrets of Eternia.
Grayskull. Yeah, Eternia.
All of Eternia.
Right.
All of the knowledge about the magic that created Eternia.
Right.
And if they... Sorry. If they crack the orb of knowledge, all of Eternia and the universe itself ceases to exist.
Yeah.
Alright, go ahead.
Well, and I don't know. There's more to it than that. I think Skeletor was trying to absorb it.
Yeah, he was trying to gain the knowledge. He didn't know that it would just...
So, episode 2, we're introduced to Teela
and Andra.
A unknown amount of time later.
Yes.
So, at the end of episode 1, this just starts it off with Teela. It's like the king and queen lose their son, Prince Adam, and everybody finds out that he was He-Man, and she just like goes off the deep end and starts yelling at everybody and storms out and quits.
Which I just like his own father didn't know. His mother knew because she found out. She wasn't like specifically told.
Yeah.
She just kind of suspected. But his own father didn't know, and you expected to be awarded that knowledge for some reason, like.
And it was very out of character for Teela from the 80s, I think. I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched that show. But from what I remember...
she was a crybaby.
Yes, she wouldn't have stormed off. She would have put her big girl panties on and...
Understood.
Yeah.
She's kind of a jerk throughout this whole series, not gonna lie. They're selling her as the main character and the person we should be rooting for, but oftentimes I found her dialogue to be very like, oh, you sound kind of like a jerk right now. You need to pull your pants up and become an adult.
Pretty much. So, like I said, episode 2, her and Andra, whatever her name is, go to Snake Mountain
to retrieve a gauntlet.
A goblet.
Goblet.
Yeah.
Gauntlet. That's the thing you put on your hands.
And then it turns out the old lady is Evelyn. And
I thought it was going to be Enchantress.
She's working with Enchantress from Grayskull, and they want to send Teela and Andra on a mission.
Yes.
With Evelyn.
Yes.
So what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly?
So that finds us in the 3rd episode where they're going to find Teela's dad, Duncan. And he sees her and he's all emotional because he's still beating himself up like years later because Teela walked out on everybody. And she doesn't act like she even forgives him. So she's still holding a grudge.
Like, if anything, she should be the one apologizing.
She was nicer to Evelyn than she was to her dad.
To her father, who appointed her man of arms, by the way.
So, episode 4, they go to...
Subternia. I almost said Paternia. Whoa there. Getting a little excited.
And Teela has to face her greatest fear, which her greatest fear is herself being too powerful.
Yeah. It like starts off as He-Man, and he's like, Adam was never your friend because he didn't tell you.
Yes.
And she's like, that's a lie, even though later in the episode right after that, she's talking about how she's still upset that he lied to her. So it's like, all right, sure. And then He-Man turns into Teela, and the old Teela
form of Teela,
with the good-looking Teela,
with her barbarianess outfit, her barbarian-esque. Yeah,
her man of arms outfit.
Not her khakis and tank top.
She looks like a default Fortnite character. Oh my gosh!
She really did.
I just made that connection. I was like, why do you look so familiar?
Well, and it's all of the women characters in this show. If you blurred them out and blurred out their face and made them all the same complexion, they would have all looked exactly the same.
Yeah. Not a single one had a different body type.
No, they were all pretty much the same body type. So
like exactly the same. So, I'm just other than the Queen, I guess. But
yeah. So then
she doesn't count.
In episode 4, they're escaping Subternia to go to Paternia, which you have to go through Subternia to get to Paternia. Yeah. So, and then that's when Orko dies, helping them escape. So then she's reintroduced.
Oh, and we saw Beastman, by the way, which he didn't do a whole lot. Honestly.
Not really. Well, he subdued Merman.
Yeah, but he was definitely kind of a letdown because Anyways.
Now that's another thing. Like they were taking Roboto with them. Teela
Metal
was.
Man, whatever you want to call him.
Well, that's what Beastman called him, but his name was Roboto.
Hero called him that.
Oh, yes. So, Teela sends her dad, because she's the boss, to Grayskull to defend it, but he keeps popping up and defending them, so...
He's magic.
Yes.
I don't know.
So, they get to Paternia, and they see Adam, Prince Adam again. And
they just so happened to pop in on the day called, I think it's called The Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Teela just starts chewing Adam out. And Adam's like...
As if she's not the one that should be apologizing. Like, yeah, hey, it's so good to see you. I can't believe you died.
Adam's like, I died. She's like, but we all had to live with that.
It's like, okay, make yourself the victim. It's like, He literally
sacrificed
perished.
himself.
He is
to
dead.
Save everybody.
He was gone, and you're sitting there like,
and she's the victim.
Me.
So, in episode 1, the sword gets split into 2.
Yes.
And then Roboto sacrifices himself, putting it back together
to reforge them.
Yeah. And then they wrap up the sword, and Teela's packing it around like it's hers. And then Adam decides to go with them. Mm-hmm. And there's other champions in Paternia. And
Grayskull's there.
They're like, hey...
Grayskull's the Allstate man.
If you leave, if you die, you won't come back here. Yeah. Because that's only for champions.
Even though he'd still technically be a champion, but okay.
So he leaves with them, and even afterwards, I was like, why is Teela packing around the sword? Because she's still packing around when they get to Grayskull.
Yeah, when they got back, they were at Grayskull, and it was being attacked.
Yeah.
And Duncan was there.
Prince Adam still didn't have his sword.
Yeah. Like, there was a moment where, this, like, a cruiser, I'm going to call it a cruiser, was coming at them at full speed, and they were just sitting there like this. Like, it cut to them sitting there like this, and then Duncan shoots it, and it explodes. But, like, what was their plan there? Were they just going to let it hit them?
Maybe.
Like... Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So then they meet up with Skeletor after he stabs Prince Adam, and it was really off-putting with Skeletor because Mark Hamill voiced him, and I really like Mark Hamill as a voice actor.
He's a good voice actor.
He did really good with Joker in the '90s Batman animated series, but he used the same voice in this, and it was. Other than the Joker's cackle, it was exactly the same. And it was like, hey, that sounds like Joker.
Because I didn't know Mark Hamill voiced Joker. Like, I was like, hey, That sounded a lot like Joker.
I was like,
in the first episode, like, he didn't sound like Joker that much. Like, he had his own voice.
You could tell, but
you could tell
last
it was
scene,
voiced by the same person.
The last scene, if you close your eyes, you would picture Joker.
It was Joker. Yeah. Like, that was Joker 110%.
Yeah, without the laugh.
Yes.
Yeah. But you were waiting for that.
Like, I expected Batman to pop out.
And Harley Quinn.
Evil Man, Harley Quinn. See? It's all coming together.
So in the end of episode 5, Skeletor picks up the sword.
Not this. He has like that sword. Okay.
Well, yeah, the sword.
Yes, the sword, not the one he used to kill Adam. I was like,
that was
no.
A spear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
So he picks up the sword.
Yes, the sword of
He-Man
power.
sword, the sword of power, and in the end, he's like towering over Grayskull, saying he's the master of the
Looking
universe.
cool.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
That looked cool.
And like I said,
I didn't expect it.
The animation in this was really good.
It was.
The voice acting, with the exception of how off-putting it was
for Joker
having Joker in this, was really good. I mean, they had a good cast. The dialogue and the writing was just... And the fact that it ended up being the Tila show when we were advertised.
Yes. And this isn't us exaggerating. If you don't know anything about the show and you're just watching this because you watch our channel and you're like, hey, I haven't heard much about this, but I'm gonna go watch this anyways. Go watch the trailer right now and tell me that this is not advertising a He-Man show. Yes. Because that's what they were selling to us. That was their selling point.
Yes, indeed.
And then you watch it, baby. And he's in like 2 episodes.
Well,
I'm not counting the flashbacks.
Right.
Because that,
yeah, if you're not counting the flashbacks, He-Man is in episode 1.
And the last episode.
No.
Well, no,
because he didn't even turn in.
Yeah, he was just Adam.
Yeah, and even like when they were in Paternia, the other champions were there. That,
because
I'm assuming had the power or the sword of power.
They got
to choose their form, so they all chose their champion form, but Adam chose to be Prince Adam in Paternia, so you get He-Man in episode 1, and then he gets stabbed in the back right before he says, I have the power, and turns into He-Man. So, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And, kind of want to go back to their designs, because I have a quote prepared that I saved to my phone.
And it's probably from Kevin Smith.
It is from Kevin Smith.
And, you know, speaking of Kevin Smith, he really drug people through the mud that said this was going to happen. And he drug them through the mud for saying this. And everything they said was true.
Exactly. Like, you're mad at them for calling out your show?
And now he's saying that people are review bombing his show, and people that aren't watching it are giving it bad reviews. And that's not the case. I mean, it's got last time I looked on Rotten Tomatoes, it had 94% critic, which only 15 critics had reviewed it. And there were 1,400 reviews, and it was at like 28% for user score. And I gave it a 3. So 28% is pretty close to a 3. It is what it is.
Yeah. Like, you're going to very clearly bait and switch us and then expect fans of the classic He-Man show not to get mad.
Yeah.
Like,
I know we're old, but we're still here and we still remember.
Exactly. Like,
we're not
they're
gone
not
yet.
Stupid. And even newer fans aren't stupid. Like,
right.
Anyways, this is a direct quote from Kevin Smith. It was from an article that Screen Rant wrote, and I'm just gonna excuse my dyslexicness, but Powerhouse Animation absolutely killed it. This artwork is amazing. The design work that Powerhouse has done, absolutely spellbinding. It's in the style of an anime, what Netflix calls an anime original, but looks exactly like our classic characters. Nobody's been redesigned to where you're, oh, that's the 2020 version. They all look like they're supposed to, and the story functions as essentially the next episode when, brackets, the 1980s original animated series, bracket, stopped. You're going to sit there, and you're going to look at Andra's design, Lieutenant Andra, the white woman from the other show. You're going to look at that design and compare her to the black woman of this show, and say that it's not redesigned?
It was redesigned. Plus, her body types were definitely redesigned.
Yeah.
Because they weren't that manly back in the 80s.
That is a quote from Kevin Smith himself. Directly lying to everyone that read that, or that saw that go down, or that heard that. Like, that is a direct quote. Not redesigned? Really?
Well, and I don't remember the exact context or how long ago this discussion was, but I watched a video recently of Kevin Smith and a couple other people, and one guy said something about, I don't really care for He-Man. And Kevin Smith was like, yeah, neither do I. I don't really care about He-Man. And then now he's executive producer for a He-Man series? If he doesn't care, what makes you think he's going to be stay on point or be loyal to the original He-Man if he doesn't care about He-Man?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No. And we need to do another video that talks about a lot of these character redesigns and gender swapping and race swapping a lot of established characters.
Very
and that's what they really did with this. They did the bait and switch, but they took He-Man and they took known characters that already had a following and were, fairly popular, but they used He-Man to bring them to the forefront and make this show about them when it was advertised about He-Man. So yeah.
I heard a lot of people talking about the queer baiting between Andra and Teela, which I completely thought they were going to end up a couple, because I think it was when they were walking through
we still have half a season.
Yeah. Subternia or Paternia. Andra had walked past Evelyn and Teela, and they were Evelyn and Teela were kind of talking and stuff, and then Evelyn turns to her and she goes, "It looks like I'm not the only one carrying a torch." And I was like,
yeah.
Pardon? Excuse? Could you speak up?
Still have half a season. Mm-hmm. And they didn't show Prince Adam as being fully dead. I mean, it looked to me like he was kind of stabbed in the side a little bit. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he's dead. He's definitely injured.
Definitely.
But I'm not going to be surprised if they do end up bringing him back. And the second half of the season could be more He-Man centered. I don't necessarily see them, if he's alive, I don't necessarily see them sidelining him like they did in the first half of the season. But we'll just have to wait and see. And I have no idea when the second half of the first season is coming out. But when it does, we'll do another video. I'm Gen X.
I'm Gen Z.
And we are Generational Geeks.